a bit of a prude, but this show was just such a slow burn with the romance. Like, this cast would win Too Hot to Handle. Hello and welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. So today I'm going to be talking about a new show on Netflix called Singles Inferno. It's reality TV, it's Korean, it's about hot people finding love, so it's right up my alley. I had kind of seen it on my Netflix profile on the home page, and I was a little bit intrigued, but I wasn't sure. Somebody commented on one of my videos that I should watch it, and that got me more intrigued, and then one of my friends told me to watch it, and that was enough of a recommendation for me to start it. It's actually kind of good timing because I discovered it on the week that the finale aired, so I just wanted to discuss this show with y'all. I'm not as scripted as I usually am for my videos just because the episodes for this show are long. I just didn't end up having time to write out my script. Lately I've been doing a lot of TV reviews that have been very scripted, so it's kind of nice to step back and just talk to y'all casually about this show. So is Singles Inferno worth watching? This is kind of a complicated answer for me. I'm not sure. It's a very kind of niche type of show, so it's kind of hard because it is a dating reality TV show. So if you like reality TV, then you might like this show, and if you like dating reality TV specifically. But it's so different from American dating shows that I'm not sure if you like, say, The Bachelor, you'll like Singles Inferno. It does have a very interesting premise, kind of how Too Hot to Handle has this big weird format and premise to it. But as far as the action goes with the cast, it's a little bit of a slow burn. Singles Inferno really focuses itself on the romance side of love, while American media focuses on the sexual side. So if you like American dating shows just for the sex and the heat and all of that, then you might not like Singles Inferno. It was a little bit uneventful as like a game. I don't know, I don't want to reveal too much, but very slow paced and romantic. However, the cinematography is really nice when you compare it to American media. It's a lot more artistic and beautiful. If you like watching shows for the vibe, if you enjoy like subtle romance, then it might be worth trying out. Also, if you just like Korean or even Japanese reality television, I recommend it. If you watch shows like Terrace House, then the slow burn of this show will feel very normal. It's just a very different approach to reality TV. But as far as I go, I did enjoy this season. It was slow, and I think it could have been cut down lengthwise. I still have some complaints here and there about things about it, but overall I enjoyed it. It was sweet, and I enjoy this type of media, and I can appreciate sort of like the high production value that goes into it. I thought that was cool. The format was a little bit like complicated for no reason, but I think it was fun. So let's talk a little bit about Singles Inferno and its kooky format. Singles Inferno is a show on Netflix, and season 1 was released in December of 2021 and ended in January of 2022, and it consisted of 8 episodes that are all around an hour long. Some are longer, and the format is, bear with me, it's weird. 5 men and 4 women are stuck on a deserted island. They are given a nice shelter and it's like a tent for the girls separated from the boys. They have a restroom, even though it's kind of like a porta potty thing. They have a little bit of an outdoor covered lunch area, and they provide them ingredients to cook every day. They have to hike to get water and to get ice. They are provided very kind of rudimentary accommodations, but I think it's meant to still be like unpleasant. A little bit like glamping, it felt like. So these 9 people are stuck on this island for 9 days. We are told that this island is very, very hot. I think in Fahrenheit it was somewhere around 100 degrees. It was 36 Celsius. And this island where they're staying is called the Inferno. So the goal of the contestants is to go to this other place called Paradise that they're told about, a luxurious and super fancy resort where they can go for the day and stay the night and have a really nice meal. The only way that you can get to paradise on this show, so you as a woman need to anonymously vote for the man you want to go to paradise with. And the men have to vote for which woman they want to go to paradise with. If the same woman and man choose each other anonymously to go to paradise with, they get to go. So basically, the want to go to paradise needs to be reciprocated between the two. This is a very heteronormative show, so it's very like men and women, and they're separated, and it's very, very gendered. I mean, it's similar to like the dating shows we see in American and British media as well. Like people on The Bachelor and people on Love Island, they're kind of like basic and traditional a lot of the time, I think. At least on The Bachelor they are. So the players have to sort of get to know each other while they're at Inferno, and then when it comes to voting time, have to hope that the right person chooses them. Also, a catch about Inferno is that the players can't reveal or talk about their age or their professions, because those two traits I think are most important for these dating shows a lot of the time. In Paradise, they can talk about those two things. So it's like the big mystery is revealed and you get to learn more about the person you're crushing on, in theory. Basically, on this show, the players go from Squid Game on Inferno Island to White Lotus in Paradise. I should also mention that this show features commentators intercut with the action of the dating show. I have pretty few references for Korean media, so I feel like most of the time I found myself comparing this show to Terrace House, as well as the dating show counterparts in the US and in British TV, like Love Island, Bachelor in Paradise, and Too Hot to Handle. This show's premise feels a little more like the real Too Hot to Handle, because the whole thing is that the Inferno Island is so hot and they're trying to escape it. But I guess the name Too Hot to Handle was taken. So let me get into my discussion of season 1. This is your spoiler alert. If you want to come back later after you've watched, I just want to go through the cast and sort of my thoughts on them and their little journey throughout Singles Inferno. Something right off the bat, even the commentators talked about it, was how everyone in the cast was so obsessed with fitness. Some of the men just seemed like carbon copies of each other because they were all so into fitness. Like, my neighbors... While I was watching this show, my neighbors were fighting right outside the window, like where I was watching. So honestly, it was so juicy. Like, it felt like that was the real reality TV show I was watching. Cause I just went from like watching the TV to like watching the... No, I had to be low-key about it, but it was wild. Like, I'm still whispering because they're yelling again. But there was like a girl yelling through tears at my neighbor, I think. I'm calling him a liar, and he was like, I have COVID, and I was like, oh my god, does COVID travel through the air vents? He was like trying to get her to calm down, and she was like, I want to go inside, and he was like, I have COVID though, and she was like, I don't care. She didn't care. It was wild. So that drama really elevated my expectations for Singles Inferno, where nothing was happening. But anyway, it was interesting how we didn't learn their age or profession until later when they were going to Paradise. It was nice for us as the audience to have that mystery, I thought. So I'm going to go through the cast in the order that they appeared. Sorry about my pronunciation of their names. So first guy was Hyun Jung, I think. He was super into fitness. He was a fitness trainer and a model, 28 years old. He had the veiny arms. Girl, we're already gonna talk about the end. Hyun Jung ended up with Gia, and he was her puppy dog this whole time. He was such a simp, though there were several simps of Gia. Hyun Jung got Gia in the end by waiting on her hand and foot the whole season, always waiting for her and following her around. And I was honestly surprised he was chosen in the end, because she was just flirting with other people this whole time, and he was just like following her around, didn't care. So next we had another guy named Sehun. Sehun had quite a roller coaster this season. He started out getting no matches. So the first 2 trips to Paradise, he wasn't involved at all. And everyone else but him got to go to Paradise at least once. He was kind of the odd man out for the first few episodes. He started out a little bit trying to get with So-yoon because they cooked together and stuff, but ended up being head over heels for Ji-yeon and ended up with her at the end. Sehun felt a little bit toxic to me sometimes. He just felt very like aggressive to some of the girls he talked to. Not aggressive like literally, like physically, just a little bit emotionally like abrasive. Like he confronted So-yoon and almost had a big argument with her about how she offended him by saying Ji-yeon didn't like him, and she was just trying to be a bro and help him see that this girl wasn't interested in him. Like, I don't know, he was just very extra in that moment and I didn't like it. He was very strong. He was one of the most athletic. He won the race. That was a big moment for him. He just wasn't getting picked by who he wanted, which was Ji-yeon. His was one of the final professions to be revealed because he didn't get to go to Paradise until really late. He revealed that he is a chef and owns like a restaurant. So next let's talk about Ji-yeon, who ended up with Sehun. We just talked about him. She was pretty popular with the guys, especially at the very beginning. Everyone saw her as very pure and like innocent and virginal, shall I say. They didn't say that, but kind of what they meant. Korean culture is just very different, I think, from American culture. Or maybe it's just this type of show, but the type of romance and dating they showed on this was very, very traditional. It's just so weird how the men and the women hold themselves to such rules that are like so gendered, and it's so weird. There's definitely some colorism on this show, and I think that's a cultural thing as well. The men really comment on like the fair skin of Ji-yeon specifically, how much they like that and her light skin and all that. It's definitely colorism, and I think it's still pretty ingrained in the culture. Like, I can't imagine someone saying that on an American or British TV show. I think they would be very canceled. I am Mexican though, so I am a little bit familiar with coming from a culture that does have a lot of colorism. So I think it's just something that is problematic. I just can't speak much to it from the Korean perspective. So Ji-yeon, we find out, is a med student or a neuroscience student in college, and she goes to the University of Toronto, which is cool. Ji-yeon has a very sweet personality. A lot of guys want to go to Paradise with her, and as the season progresses, Sehun is the main guy, really focusing on Ji-yeon. Ji-yeon has a lot of different interested parties at the beginning, but towards like the second half of the season, Sehun is very laser focused on her, and the other guys sort of find other interest. Ji-yeon had a bit of a weird journey with the romance because she seemed interested in everyone but Sehun. But there's one point in the season where they abandoned the voting thing after 2 rounds of voting, and then after that, the way you go to Paradise is you win a physical challenge and you just get to choose somebody to go. So it no longer becomes a consensual desire to go to Paradise. It's kind of interesting. I don't know. These shows are so weird because their format is so like fluid. Like compared to other shows I watch that are very structured, like Drag Race and Project Runway, shows like that. This show just feels so like we don't know what's gonna happen. I think Netflix has really pioneered a trend in reality TV that way. Like Too Hot to Handle, Love is Blind, and The Circle all have pretty weird formats that aren't the same every single episode. Like things change and it's weird, like they bring in new people and the rules just seem a lot more flexible on these shows. Singles Inferno was the same way. Like I didn't know what was gonna happen next. The contestants didn't know. But I think that added to what made it interesting because it was a slow-paced show. So at least the format was keeping me guessing and keeping it interesting. Ji-yeon from the beginning, even before she revealed she was a student, she gave me like smart student vibes. The kind of girl in school that's like nice and pretty and gets good grades and just kind of is a well-rounded person. I don't know. But she ended up happily with Sehun, which was a plot twist because she was kind of ignoring him at the beginning. Once Sehun won a physical challenge later in the season, he got to choose his date to paradise without their consent. So that was his time to swoop in and ask Ji-yoon, and she couldn't deny it. Somehow from that, Ji-yoon was into him after that. They went again to paradise because she won the next game. So she chose him, and that was sort of the moment where Sehun's love was finally reciprocated. It was kind of a big payoff. Sehun was quite the underdog those first few episodes, and even the commentators felt really, really bad for him just because no one wanted him. But in the end, he got the girl, so it worked out for him. From the articles I found, there has been no confirmation that Sehun and Jiyeon are still together though. So that to me is a no. They're not together. So next came in Junsik. He was pretty low-key. He was definitely more of a background character this season. Junsik owns a health product brand. A lot of these people own brands, which made me side-eye. You know, they're just getting on this show for the exposure of their brand. Junsik is also one of the ones that likes cooking, and he says he likes cat face types, whatever that means. I have a cat personality, but I don't think I have a cat face. I wish I did though. Junsik had a low-key journey. He was left behind in the first round of paradise dates, and also left behind was Yaewon, who they ended up having a lot of time together on Inferno and got to know each other and ended up together. They were very much like a blog background couple a lot of the time. They didn't get a lot of screen time. They kind of early on got along and ended up just sticking with each other whenever they could. But they weren't winning challenges either, so they didn't really get to go to paradise more than once. I think they only went once. And in the end, just chose each other and held hands. It doesn't look like they're together still, though, on social media from what I was reading. To me, it just felt like they got along. They weren't, like, dating. I don't know. Next came in So-yoon. So-yoon was a badass. She was 34 years old, I think the oldest contestant, and she looked amazing. She did have a mature vibe, but it was all about like her confidence that really radiated like her age more than her look. She owned like a boxing gym and was super, super fit. She was the strongest girl, like the fastest girl, the one winning on the physical challenges. She basically played every sport. She had a roller coaster as well, but she did end up with her guy. It was just a rocky road. So-yoon at first was interested in Sehun because they cooked together and it was cute. The things on this show that they make romantic, it's just like nonsense to me. It's just such mundane little things that they just romanticize it, like washing rice, and they make it all romantic somehow with the cinematography. It was pretty funny and cool. So-yoon at first wants to date Sehun, but also has her eye on Jintaek, and they end up going to paradise the first round together. Jintaek sort of makes her feel comfortable about their status, but then goes on and kind of tries to talk to other people, and she's hurt for a lot of the season, like because Jintaek is trying things out with other girls, and she's just like very upset. Jintaek gets to go to paradise a couple of times more than her. She's left behind feeling all sad, but in the end she does end up with her guy, and she just really took initiative with him towards the end, and decided to make that change to be more assertive and get what she wanted. They were the ones that gave us the most action, like romantic action, meaning she kissed him on the cheek and gave him a massage. That was the that was the climax of their sexual tension. It's just so funny because you watch shows like Too Hot to Handle or Are You the One or Love Island, and you're like, oh, people are just having sex the first night just cause they're there and they're hot and they had a drink. Like The Bachelor has the paradise, wait, what's it called? They have a boom boom room in paradise, but they have the fantasy suites on regular seasons. Imagine if in Singles Inferno one guy in the same week had sex with like 3 of the women. That would be like so disrespectful. They just wouldn't let that fly on this type of show. It would be like social suicide maybe. I don't know. So I liked So-yoon. I like that she got her happy ending. I like that she represented women in their 30s and she was very empowered. She was one of my favorite contestants, I think. Next came in Seoon, who looks like a K-pop idol. They kept mentioning. He was definitely the least athletic of the group, which I found cute. I mean, I appreciate guys like this the most compared to all the muscle guys and the fitness guys. I would find Seoon the most like approachable because he did seem like the more artsy type, even though for this show the threshold for muscles is like ridiculously extreme. Seoon was kind of sensitive, and the whole season he was a simp, and he was a simp for Gia. He literally gasped at the sight of Gia when she walked in. He was just like, simp at first gasp. Seoon was just unfortunately outperformed by other men that were also competing for Gia's attention. Seoon tried to hang out with Ji-yoon. He was like, Ji-yoon is my type, like ideally. But then he always votes for Gia in all the votes, and I'm just like, this is how men are. They're sneaky. They're like, oh, I like this sweet personality girl. And then when it's anonymous, they go and vote for the sexy one. Seoon spends most of the season just simping after Gia. He does get to go with her once to Paradise. I thought she was into him, but Gia was playing everybody because she was not into Seoon at all. He had a wonderful night with her in Paradise. And in Paradise, they don't have sex, by the way. They just, you know, hang out a little bit and eat dinner and sleep in separate rooms. Next came in Yeowon. I talked a little bit about her because she ended up with Junsik at the end. I really liked Yeowon, and I felt bad for her because she was kind of like very underrated. To me, she had kind of had Charlie D'Amelio vibes, like clean and sporty type of girl. And she was a Pilates instructor and model and trainer. She was honestly the one with the most personality. Like, she had that whole flirting with Hyun Sang, and I thought he was gonna pick her because he liked her personality, but then he was just like, no, Gia. I just felt bad that Yeowon was overlooked so much. I really liked her, and I was happy she had a personality because a lot of these people had very like the same personalities. Like, they would say, what do you want in a partner? And they would say, oh, I want someone that has their own opinions. Everyone has their own opinions. Like, what are you talking about? It's just very kind of generic. It feels like the qualities they've been told they should want in a partner, and they don't even know what they're saying. But maybe the translation isn't great either, and it's concepts that maybe Americans don't find valuable and Koreans do. I don't know what it is. So next came in Gia, who is the most popular contestant of the season. Gia is a badass bitch. Like, she looks like a doll. The way she holds herself, honestly, and like her mannerisms a bit remind me a lot of Ariana Grande. Like, she has that vibe of like, oh, I'm not trying to be cute, but I'm so cute. She was modeling in every single shot. She would just be like, what did you say? Oh, oh. Gia was modeling and working the camera. She's just like one of those people that is just gorgeous and knows it and knows how to use it, knows her power, which was just the most fun to watch. She had men like at her feet, like just following her and simping for her. Like, much respect to Gia, and she knows how to work a man. Like, there was one point in one of the first episodes, she was like holding her little parasol, and she starts like stroking it, like while talking to the man. And she's stroking the parasol. Gia, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. So Gia just had those moments. Even at the very end, she was trying to pick between the three men that were professing their love for her. And she's picking between them, and she's like, I couldn't with Gia. She was just so fierce and like just quite a character. She's like a pure glamour girl, like full label whore. She always had Dior or Chanel or Louis Vuitton. Like, she was decked out in designer at all times. She had the Cartier jewelry. The bitch was there to serve. She was the queen of Inferno. And she barely spent any time in Inferno because she was always picked to go to paradise. Fitting for the glamour girl, she spent most of her time at the luxury resort. She was the main character of the season, I would say. And she ended up with Hyunjung, the first man to walk in. But her power at the very end, where she was choosing between the three men at her feet, she goes up to him when she finally chooses him, and it's like, let's go, puppy. She calls him like puppy, like her puppy, the whole time. I'm just like, just the power. It may be like a toxic relationship, but I don't care. For TV, this relationship was so fun. And watching Gia work her magic was worth watching these long ass episodes for. We also find out that Gia's an influencer. I mean, she looks like an influencer. She conducts herself like an influencer. She knows her angles, so it was no surprise. She is a YouTuber with over 500,000 subscribers at the time of filming, but now has over 1 million. You know, if I looked like her, I'd be, you know, at 1 million subscribers by now, I think. And I hate y'all for that. The last guy to walk in is Jin Tech, and he is so funny. He openly admits he wants a hot body for his woman. He's also hairy. He has a beard and chest hair. And he's kind of one of the kookier of the guys. Like, he's funny. Funny in hot people terms, so he just makes jokes here and there. He's a little bit more goofy. And he's a little bit clumsy in his romance, it seems like. And to me, a lot of the time, Jintech just felt like he would just tell whatever woman he was with, just whatever she wanted to hear. So he would be with So-yoon, and she'd be like, I want a guy that's older than me. And he's like, I'll be a guy that's older than you. I'm younger than you, but I'll be older than... Like, he told So-yoon, I don't want to come with anyone else to paradise. And then he votes for somebody else and goes to paradise. And then he goes with Ji-yeon, and is like... He just flirted kind of clumsily, I think, and it was weird that he didn't see So-yoon, and she was just hurt a lot of the time, and he was pretty clueless about it. Again, remember, I'm judging these people as the characters they played on this TV show, not as actual people. I have no idea what kinds of people they are. Don't take it so serious. It's just characters on an unscripted TV show. That was the first main cast for the first few days, and then in episode 5 they bring in some newcomers. We had 3 extra contestants that came in. First was a girl named Sumin, who was very bubbly, and she hit it off with Sehun first, but he never reciprocated that interest to her. Sumin had a sad ending because Sehun didn't choose her, and that's what she was hoping for. She also didn't get to go to paradise. I don't think the newcomers worked out this season at all. I think on certain seasons they would. It just kind of depends on the cast and their pre-existing relationships. In this round, newcomers did not have any success. Wait, Sumin wanted to be with Seon, actually, not Sehun. But it didn't work out. He went for Gia. The next newcomer to come in was Minji, and she had a pretty bad time, it seemed like, on Inferno. She wanted to be with Sehun, but they went on a date at the very beginning. When she first got there, got to choose someone to go on a quick date with. They found out at that date that they had nothing in common. She was a gamer who played Overwatch and liked hip-hop, and he liked ballads and only knew of Maple Story, which I thought was pretty funny. They were very opposites. It was weird that Minji thought like he would still choose her after finding out they're polar opposites, but she was always disappointed that Sehun wasn't giving her a chance until the bitter end. And then finally there was a new guy who had the most success of the newcomers, but still left home with no one. The guy that came in is Hyun-sang, and he really loves water sports, and he's very athletic. We find out he is a dancer. We also find out that Hyun-sang knows Hyunjung. They work out together a lot, and and he sort of knew Gia, but not in person. I thought it was weird they brought in someone with a pre-existing relationship. I don't think that should have been allowed. He clearly had his eye on Gia from the beginning just because he knew her. It just felt unfair because also the whole point of Inferno is they don't know their professions, so if they know each other in real life, they know their professions and ages. Hyun-sang went for Gia right away and stuck with her. He went to Paradise with her, and it really felt like Gia was going to pick him, I thought, because she was all about Hyunjung until Hyun-sang came in. She kept like complimenting his looks and physique, just in general flirting a lot with him and laying it on thick. So I was like, Gia, damn, you're already moving on from Hyunjung. In the end, she chose Hyunjung anyway. But Hyun-sang was very popular with the ladies. I thought he was gonna go for Yewon, but then he disappointed me and didn't. I think they would have been a cute couple. Because Yewon kind of felt like she settled for Jinsik. I would have liked Hyun-sang just to have given someone else a shot. But I get why the men were all simping for Gia. Like, when you see her walk in, you know she's gonna be that bitch. So let me talk about some critiques I had of the show. I did not like how the commentators were edited in this one. I generally like the commentators' idea. I mean, I have very little exposure to it because I've only watched Terrace House that has this format. On Terrace House, I really enjoy the commentators because they are funny, but this commentator panel I was not a fan of. They were pretty dry and they were normal though. Like, sometimes I felt like I was one of them. I saw them taking notes and I was like, me too. I was taking notes too. I think the commentators are probably fine. They just didn't seem to have super strong personalities. What bugged me more about the commentating was that the editing of it was more jarring and all over the place. They would cut in the commentators just randomly throughout when anything was happening. And in Terrace House, it's like, you get a segment of the show and then a debrief with the commentator, another segment of the show, a debrief. They have their own sections. So I like that better than them being intercut all the time. I think my biggest critique about this show was the time and length of episodes. They were really long for reality television. I get it, sometimes it is about nice cinematography, the nice establishing shots that take a while, but honestly, this show had a lot of slow-mo and a lot of replays of just people saying something, like a suspenseful moment. They would just replay it like 3 times. The suspenseful moments were so dragged out. It was just too much for me, and I think that's what made the episodes too long. The action didn't warrant the length. Like, there wasn't that much going on. It did feel too slow, in my opinion. I didn't like some of the physical challenges, especially I didn't like the second round of physical challenges. The race was fine. I think the race was not very creative as far as a physical challenge goes. Like, I watch a lot of Survivor where every challenge is an intricate puzzle and obstacle course. But then the second round of physical challenges were kind of wrestling, especially the male one. It was just so savage. I hated it. This literally felt like the Squid Game, the Squid Game at the end. Instead of the Squid Game little drawings, it was a pool of water, but it was the same game. They had to knock each other out of the limits. So it was just like, this is some Squid Game shit. And also the announcer, so there was like an announcer voice that would tell them what to do at all times. It was weird because it sounded like Squid Game, but it's just because Squid Game is also in Korean, so they sound similar. But it was the same in Squid Game. They wouldn't know what they were doing next, and then the announcer would tell them like, move over here and come out here. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of the wrestling physical challenges. Those just stress me out and just seem so dangerous. I don't like men fighting like that. It also feels very like, prove your masculinity in this animalistic way. And it's like, ugh. I am a bit of a prude, but this show was just such a slow burn with the romance. Like, this cast would win Too Hot to Handle. Like the $1 million or whatever they're fighting for. This cast won the Too Hot to Handle challenge without those even being the rules. This cast holding hands was the biggest step at the end that all of them got to, the couples did. It's a gag. Like, they go to these fancy ass hotel rooms and don't do anything. They don't even kiss, y'all. They don't even kiss. And I'm not a fan of like the makeouts and the Bachelor. I hate that shit. So I'm glad not to see it in this. But like, even just a peck, just to show that you got somewhere together. I don't know. It's wild. That it's just so conservative, and I'm sure it's just cultural and it just seems odd to me, but maybe not. Like, if you're Korean or very familiar with Korean culture, you gotta let me know if Singles Inferno represents how people date in Korea, because in America people don't date like this. Just watch 20 somethings or one of these dumb shows. People just sleep together and figure it out, stumble through. If an outsider were to watch The Bachelor and be like, wow, Americans date really weird, they would think that if they would just watch The Bachelor and that is their only reference. Maybe Singles Inferno is just like a dramatization, but it just felt so conservative in how the romance would play out, and it seemed like they were gonna be doing something inappropriate, but they simply did not. I could have used a little bit more. The last critique I'll leave you with is sort of the ending and like the goal of the show. There wasn't an incentive to couple up. Like on some of these dating shows, you can win money if you end up with a couple at the end or something, or you propose, or I don't know, something happens at the end, and this just felt anticlimactic. I don't think that's a horrible thing. I think it matched the aesthetic of the rest of the show and the pace of the rest of the show, but it just felt a little weird at the end that it's like, we're not winning money, we're just finding love, but like, it just felt like the ending was meaningless and that there's no stakes. Like, they make the men go on this dramatic trek to the woman, and it's just like, okay, cool, you might date after this or you might not. And also the whole thing about the Inferno, I don't really get that. Like, the heat is branded as the important thing that they're trying to escape, and I think the heat of the island is supposed to make them desperate enough to find love and go to paradise with that love. I gotta say, I don't know if it was bullshit that the temperature was this high or just really good camera filters, but I did not see one drop of sweat this whole season on anyone. Maybe they all just have Botox. I mean, Korea is the beauty capital of the world. They have all of the beauty secrets, but these people were not sweating, and they were wearing like full drag, like full designer outfits and makeup and hair and everything, even the men. And I was just like, you mean to tell me it's 100 degrees here? I don't believe it, actually. I don't think it was 100 degrees. Conspiracy. It was just a little weird. And also, like, the whole concept of paradise was so funny because it seems swapped from like what typically in your head, what do you visualize when you hear the word paradise? A lot of people will say like a beach or like a Microsoft screensaver beach. I feel like if I showed you these two pictures and asked you which one is paradise, a lot of people might choose the beach. So it's kind of flipped. Paradise is this like pristine man-made environment, completely devoid of nature. Such a strange juxtaposition. Does it mean anything? No, but I like to think about it. But finally, let me talk about some of the positives. I think I've said a lot of them throughout. I think the cinematography is the standout for me with this show. A lot of it feels like a scripted show. Like, it just feels that artistically shot and produced and edited, aside from the commentators interjecting. So I really loved that. I love how they approach reality TV in a more like romantic way and like a cute way. Like the moments that they make dramatic with like slow-mo and music, like the part where Hyunjung is watching Gia make rice or wash rice. It's just like this slow-mo staring at her. It's wild. So I think how it's shot, the cinematography, very artistic. I also liked the music. Some of the English lyrics were so random. There was one song that was like, one man's trash is another man's baggage. And I was like, what? Okay. Whatever that means. I like the music and the dramatization, like the romanticizing of very mundane things, the romance, and how it's such middle school type flirting on these shows. And let me know if you're Korean and if this is how you flirt. Like, it reminds me of high school and middle school. Stealing a boy's hat or wearing his glasses. I think I just have a different cultural perspective. Or maybe this reality show is just being very extra about how people date. I also enjoyed the food shots, and both in when they were cooking it and when they were in the hotel. Like, oh, it looked so good, and it was just like beautifully shot. And I don't know, something about these shows, their food just always looks so good. Also, love me a good theme song. It wasn't like the best theme song ever, but it's a bop and I enjoyed it. So I think that's all I have for Singles Inferno. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I honestly loved a lot of the girls, especially. Like, the guys were whatever, but the girls, I enjoyed them a lot. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos twice a week about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notifications here on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.